Welcome to Honeybee, real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. My name is Wallace, and this is a story of how one teenager's lies tore my marriage apart, but also freed me from a family that only saw me as a walking paycheck. Everything began back in 2018, when I met Linda, the woman who would eventually become my wife. At the time, I was 39 years old, running my own electrical contracting business, and living in a fully paid-off 3-bedroom house I had worked hard to earn. Linda was 36, working part-time as a medical receptionist, and raising her 11-year-old daughter, Ashley, from a previous long-term relationship. Ashley's father had been absent for years. No support, no visits, not even a phone call. Linda was doing her best to raise her daughter alone, working just enough hours to keep her health insurance, but not so many that she'd lose her housing assistance. When we first started dating, I could tell they were struggling financially, but I admired Linda's independence and determination. Ashley was sweet when I met her, shy but polite, doing well in school, and genuinely happy when Linda and I spent time together. She asked me curious questions about my work, loved learning about how electrical systems function, and even helped me with small projects around the house during their weekend visits. After about a year and a half of dating, Linda and I decided to get married. It felt like the practical thing to do. I could provide them with a stable home, and Ashley would benefit from living in a better school district. Linda would keep her part-time job for the health coverage, while I handled the major household expenses. Once we were married, Linda and Ashley moved into my home. The transition went smoothly. Ashley seemed excited to have a bigger bedroom than she'd ever had before, and Linda was relieved to stop worrying about rent and utilities every month. I tried to be a supportive stepdad without overstepping boundaries. I helped Ashley with homework whenever she asked, drove her to practices and games, and made sure she had what she needed for school. Linda handled most of the discipline, but Ashley respected me and followed the house rules. Financially, I covered nearly everything: utilities, groceries, and day-to-day expenses. Linda's income mostly went toward her car payment and personal needs. I didn't mind providing for them. My business was doing well, and I'd always imagined sharing my success with a wife and kids. Ashley wasn't my biological daughter, but I treated her as if she were, even starting a college fund for her and encouraging her involvement in extracurriculars Linda couldn't have afforded. The first signs of trouble came when Ashley turned 14 and entered those difficult teenage years. She started testing boundaries, lie about homework, try and play Linda and me against each other to get her way. At first, I thought it was normal teenage rebellion, and Linda and I worked together to enforce consistent rules. But I didn't realize Ashley was starting to resent my authority. She'd lived in my house for years and seemed to forget it had been mine long before they moved in. When I'd ask her to do chores or follow rules, she'd mumble things like, "You're not my dad," or "You don't get to boss me around." By the following year, the muttered complaints became open defiance. She argued that Linda should be the only one making decisions about her rules and privileges, telling her mother I was too strict and trying to get her to overrule me. This caused growing tension between Linda and me, as I felt Ashley was deliberately undermining my role in my own home. The situation escalated shortly after Ashley's 15th birthday. One evening, I was working in my home office when Linda came in looking shaken. She told me Ashley had been crying, claiming that I had stared at her in a weird way as she walked from her room to the bathroom in her pajamas. I was stunned by the accusation. I explained to Linda that I had barely seen Ashley that night and had been buried in paperwork. If I happened to glance up, it was pure coincidence. Still, Ashley was upset, and Linda felt she had to take her daughter's concerns seriously. Though Linda didn't outright accuse me, she suggested I should be more careful around Ashley. That was the first major crack in our marriage. From then on, I became overly cautious. I avoided eye contact with Ashley if she was in pajamas, made sure to announce myself loudly when walking through the house, and even started working longer hours just to avoid being home when she returned from school. But my carefulness didn't improve the situation. It made it worse. Ashley seemed to take my avoidance as proof of guilt, telling Linda I was acting weird. About 8 months later, Ashley accused me again. this time saying I had brushed against her in the hallway on purpose, when there was plenty of room to pass without touching. I denied it completely, explaining that if we had bumped, it was accidental. The hallway was narrow, and we were both carrying things. But by now, Ashley was 16, and her accusations were becoming more detailed and serious. She told Linda she felt unsafe around me, that she was scared to be alone with me. Linda, caught between her daughter and me, suggested counseling. Our first session felt more like an intervention, as if I was being pressured to admit to something I hadn't done. Around this time, I installed security cameras in the common areas, officially for home security, but really to protect myself. Cameras covered the kitchen, living room, and hallways, anywhere Ashley and I might cross paths. This hypervigilance drained me and eroded my relationship with both Linda and Ashley. Ashley, meanwhile, seemed to enjoy the control she had. She'd make little threats about calling the cops if I acted weird, and use my fear to get her way in family decisions. I avoided being alone with her entirely. If Linda left the house, I either went out myself or stayed locked in my room with the door open until she came back. Despite the cameras, Ashley made a third accusation a few months later, and this time, she called the police. She claimed I had put my hand on her shoulder while she was doing homework, and kept it there after she told me to stop. Police came to the house, took statements, and I explained it had been a brief, innocent touch to get her attention, lasting no more than 2 seconds. What I didn't know then was that this wasn't Ashley's first police call. It was her fourth. She had been calling the police about me for years, filing reports I was never told about. That night, I was arrested and spent the night in jail. The next morning, I was released on bond with restraining order, keeping me from my own home while the investigation continued. I checked into a hotel and contacted a divorce lawyer. By this point, I knew my marriage might not survive. Linda had grown increasingly cold toward me, questioning my every move. Trying to stay in that marriage felt impossible and dangerous. 2 weeks later, the police finished reviewing the security footage. The videos proved that Ashley's claims were false. The district attorney declined to press charges, lifted the restraining order, and warned that repeated false reports could lead to charges against Ashley. But by then, my decision was made. My lawyer had already drafted divorce papers. When I returned home, Linda looked surprised to see me, and instead of welcoming me back, the first thing she asked was, "Have you thought about your actions?" She still believed I was at fault despite the evidence. I handed her the divorce papers in silence. Ashley ran downstairs and saw what was happening. She screamed at me not to leave them. That reaction told me everything. During the 2 weeks I was gone, bills had been stacking up. Linda's income couldn't cover the house expenses, and their credit cards were maxed out. They hadn't been hoping for me to come home because they missed me. They needed my money. That realization hurt, but also set me free. I'd spent years trying to build a family, but they had only seen me as a source of income. Even Ashley's accusations had been about control, not fear. Ashley later texted me, begging me to stay and promising to tell the police she had lied. But it was too late. Trust was gone, and I couldn't spend the rest of my life waiting for the next false accusation. Linda tried to fight for spousal support in the divorce, but the court wasn't sympathetic after seeing the pattern of false police reports. They ruled in my favor. Within 60 days, Linda and Ashley had to move out of my house. Ashley lost the college fund I had built for her, and Linda was forced to work full-time for the first time in years. They moved into a small apartment, far from the lifestyle they had enjoyed while I supported them. Through mutual friends, I later learned that Ashley was having behavioral issues at school. It seems her manipulation tactics didn't work outside the house. Looking back, I wish I had seen the pattern sooner and left earlier. The security cameras ended up saving me from a false conviction and possible prison time. That investment was the best decision I ever made. Oddly enough, I'm grateful Ashley made that final accusation. It forced me to walk away from a marriage that was destroying me. Today, I have my house, my peace of mind, and a clear understanding of what I will and won't tolerate in a relationship.